The new House Majority Melanie Zanona, Dems prepare to subpoena family separation documents from Trump administration. House Democrats are laying the groundwork to subpoena the Trump administration for a trove of documents relating to its controversial migrant family separation policy at the border. According to several sources familiar with the matter, the House Oversight Committee will vote next Tuesday to authorize 3 subpoenas for the Departments of Homeland Security, Justice, and Health and Human Services, teeing up the first subpoena of the panel's new Democratic majority. POLITICO in North Carolina. Damaged GOP faces tough path in North Carolina election do-over. By Laura Barron Lopez. Republicans are gearing up for an uncertain and potentially crowded primary in the new election for North Carolina's 9th congressional district, while Democrat Dan McCready is already coalescing support from his party for the revote, as McCready held an event relaunching his campaign Friday and landed a valuable endorsement from the Daily Kos, a small-dollar fundraising powerhouse on the left. A pack of Republicans were considering their own runs, with no clear favorite among them. It's unclear if Mark Harris, the 2018 candidate whose campaign was the subject of fraud allegations that tainted the midterm election and forced a new race, will run again, after recently suffering from health problems. Politico. By signing up, you agree to receive email newsletters or alerts from Politico. You can unsubscribe at any time. Good Saturday morning. The latest in Venezuela. At Venezuela's border, a strange and deadly showdown over aid by NYT's Nicholas Casey in Cucuta, Colombia, Anatoly Gormanayev in Arania, Venezuela and Ernesto Londoño in Rio de Janeiro. The political showdown over the delivery of aid to Venezuela turned deadly Friday when its security forces fired on protesters near the country's Brazilian border, killing 2 and wounding a dozen in a confrontation that could signal a more violent and destabilizing struggle over who can claim to be the country's legitimate leader. A critical moment loomed on Saturday, when Venezuela's opposition, led by Juan Guaido, vowed to deliver tons of donated humanitarian aid from abroad, against the orders of President Nicolas Maduro. The bloodshed came as the presidents of Chile, Colombia and Paraguay flew to the Colombian border town of Cucuta in a display of anti-Maduro resolve, and were joined by Mr. Guaido, who defied a travel ban. Crowds converged in the town, where tons of aid have been stockpiled, cheering Latino pop stars in a pro-Guaido show arranged by Richard Branson, the billionaire entrepreneur. NYTSATURDAY Playbook interview. Rhode Island Gov. Gina Raimondo, chair of the Democratic Governors Association, talked with us about her role at the group and how she interacts with the Trump administration, among other things. On her goals at the DGA, I see a lot of my role is to just seize on the 2018 election, and to keep it going. We've got 14 important races this cycle. 3 this year, 11 next year, and obviously we want to continue to rack up wins. Keep the incumbents where they are and pick up a few new seats. On 2020 and its impact to fundraising, it's an important year next year and there will be many folks running, so it's a factor. It's a different kind of fundraising. People are increasingly understanding how important governors are. So, I can imagine people will write checks to a presidential and also to the DGA because they understand this is grassroots, and if we're going to bring change throughout the country, I believe it is going to be bottoms up, not necessarily top down. On Trump, anytime he wants to do something to help Rhode Islanders, I'm right there because that's my top job, so that means funding for transportation projects. We've worked very collaboratively with the administration on that. Funding for job training programs, we've worked collaboratively on that, and I'll continue to do that. At times it does because frankly exhausting to protect the people from Rhode Island from the president's bad policies. Next up, Trump taps Kelly Nightcraft as UN ambassador, by Alex Panetta, Nahal Tusi, Eliana Johnson and Brent D. Griffiths, a snapshot of Kraft's challenges in serving a president with a practically subterranean approval rating in Canada, recorded as low as 11%, was illustrated at an event she hosted last September. The ambassador had invited the local press to her home for a goodwill-building happy hour event. but she wound up having to retreat to work in the midst of the gathering when phones started buzzing with news that Trump was publicly trashing Canada's government and professing his distaste for the country's foreign minister. Politico. A message from the American Beverage Association. America's beverage companies are working together to bring you more ways to help reduce calories from sugar. Coke, Dr. Pepper and Pepsi are offering more great-tasting choices than ever before with less sugar or no sugar at all, smaller portion sizes, clear calorie labels and reminders to think balance. https://www.balancius.org/Trump Inc. Cohen gave prosecutors new information on the Trump family business by NYT's Ben Protus, William K. Rashbaum and Maggie Haberman. Michael D. Cohen, President Trump's former lawyer and fixer, met last month with federal prosecutors in Manhattan, offering information about possible irregularities within the president's family business and about a donor to the inaugural committee, according to people familiar with the matter. NYT, Kushner Cuz seeks federal loan in biggest deal in decade, sources say, by Bloomberg's Lily Katz, David Kochanowski and Caleb Melby. Kushner Cuz, the real estate firm owned by the family of President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, has sought financing from federally owned lenders for its biggest purchase in a decade. The company has been in talks with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac about a loan for a $1.15 billion purchase of apartments in Maryland and Virginia, according to two people familiar with the discussions. Bloomberg. Ben Schreckinger, Qatar hired ex-Trump campaign staffer as D.C. lobbyist. 2020 Watch. The story everyone is talking about, how Amy Klobuchar treats her staff, by NYT's Matt Flegenheimer and Sydney Ember. Elizabeth Warren opens door to reparations for Native Americans, by WAPO's Annie Linsky in Manchester, New Hampshire. Sen. Elizabeth Warren said Friday evening that Native Americans should be part of the conversation on reparations, showing a willingness to expand the debate over whether minority groups that have faced discrimination should be financially compensated by the federal government. Warren is one of 4 Democratic presidential hopefuls who have said in recent days that they're open to providing some type of reparations to African Americans who are descendants of people who were enslaved in the United States. Although they've offered varying levels of details about how the goal would be achieved. WAPO. A message from the American Beverage Association. 3 competitors, Coke, Dr. Pepper and Pepsi, are working together to reduce sugar consumed from beverages. That's a big deal. Learn more. The investigations. Grand jury is examining whether former Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke lied to federal investigators, by WAPO's Juliet Alperin and Lisa Rain. Prosecutors have begun presenting evidence to grand jury in Washington in their probe of whether former Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke lied to federal investigators, according to 2 individuals briefed on the matter. The closed-door deliberations are focused on Zinke's decision not to grant a petition by 2 Indian tribes to operate a commercial casino in Connecticut. The Mashantucket, Pequot and Mohegan tribes' push to run a gambling facility in East Windsor, Con, had sparked a lobbying campaign by MGM Resorts International, a competitor that opposed the planned casino. WAPO. Manafort is expected to face charges in New York, even if Trump pardons him, by NYT's William K. Rashbaum. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office is preparing state criminal charges against Paul J. Manafort, President Trump's former campaign chairman, in an effort to ensure he will still face prison time even if the president pardons him for his federal crimes, according to several people with knowledge of the matter. Mr. Manafort is scheduled to be sentenced next month for convictions in 2 federal cases brought by special counsel Robert S. Mueller III. It could effectively be a life sentence for Mr. Manafort, who turned 70 in April. Trump's Saturday. The president has nothing on his public schedule. National Catholic Reporter's Joshua Mackel, Cardinal admits to Vatican summit that Catholic Church destroyed abuse files. For your radar, CIA Korea expert who spurred talks sees hope in summit, by WSJ's Warren Strobel in Palo Alto, California. Andrew Kim traveled repeatedly last year to North Korea with then CIA Director and current Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, coordinated with top officials in South Korea, where he was born, and delivered personal letters between President Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. The former CIA officer recalled that during an April 2018 meeting with Kim Jong-un, Mr. Pompeo pressed the North Korean leader on whether he was willing to abandon his nuclear program. Andrew Kim said the North Korean leader responded, "I'm a father and a husband. And I have children. And I don't want my children to carry the nuclear weapon on their back their whole life." That was his answer. West JCNN's Caroline Kelly. Dianne Feinstein's climate change discussion with school children gets heated. Sen. Dianne Feinstein clashed Friday with a group of children over climate change policy, criticizing their requests that she back the Green New Deal, accusing them of presenting an ultimatum and contrasting their inability to vote with her 3 decades in office. CNN BALLEY Talk. Silicon Valley loves Cory Booker. That could be a problem for him. By Recode's Teddy Schleifer, the Stanford grad is traipsing into a very different fundraising environment when he arrives in Silicon Valley this weekend. Microsoft workers call for canceling military contract for technology that could turn warfare into a video game. By WAPO's Tony Rahm and Drew Harwell. A message from the American Beverage Association. America's beverage companies are working together to bring you more ways to help reduce calories from sugar. https://www.balancius.org/mediawatch. Vanity Fair disinvites New York Times from Oscars party. By NY. Post's Ollie Coleman and Mara Siegler. Like the mean girl in a high school movie, Vanity Fair has disinvited the New York Times from its famed Oscar party at the last minute because the Times said rude things about it. Page 6. The original Times story clicker, The Nation's Cartoonists on the Week in Politics, edited by Matt Worker. 11 Keepers Great Weekend Reads, curated by Daniel Lippman. America's Professional Elite, Wealthy, Successful and Miserable, by Charles Duhigg in the NY. Times Magazine. The upper echelon is hoarding money and privilege to a degree not seen in decades. But that doesn't make them happy at work. NYT. The Failure of the French Elite, by Pascal Emmanuel Gobry in WSJ's Saturday essay. The Yellow Vest protests have revealed the profound divide between the privileged class embodied by Emmanuel Macron and the rest of France. WSJ. Follow the Path of Least Resistance, An Oral History of Office Space, by Jake Krinkschreifels in The Ringer. 20 years ago, an upstart animator named Mike Judge forever changed how we think about office culture, adulthood. Red Staplers, and Michael Bolton. The Ringer. Trailer. We're not in New York anymore, by Justin Davidson on the cover of NYMAG. Hudson Yards is a billionaire's fantasy city and you never have to leave, provided you can pay for it. NYMAG. What these 2020 candidates' DC neighborhoods tell us about them, by Washingtonian's Brittany Shepard. Washingtonian. You give app-sensitive personal information. They tell Facebook, by WSJ's Sam Schechner and Mark Sakata. Millions of smartphone users confess their most intimate secrets to apps, including when they want to work on their belly fat or the price of the house they checked out last weekend. Other apps know users' body weight, blood pressure, menstrual cycles or pregnancy status. Unbeknown to most people, in many cases that data is being shared with someone else. Facebook Inc. WSJ. The Telephone Got Disconnected, by Tom Skoka and Hem Daily. When was the last time you had a decent phone conversation, on a phone call? When did you stop trying? In a span of less than 20 years, the habit of talking to people on the phone has been more or less eradicated. Hem Daily. HTThebrowser.com. No Deadlines, Magazine Editing and the Passage of Time, by Robert Messenger in the Times Literary Supplement. The miracle is not that newspapers are any good, it is that they come out at all. One of the city's greatest critics once told me that the best advice he got in 2 decades at the New York Times was when he proposed a new arts column. Do you know what a newspaper feature is? An old-timer asked him. It's a hole you have to fill with sand every goddamn day. TLS, for your mouth only. Welcome to the era of personalized food, by B. Wilson in 1843 magazine. B. Wilson asks what has gained, or lost, when everyone has a Dorito tailored for them. 1843 magazine. How to Grant Your Child an Inner Life, by Jess Rowe. In the New Yorker, per LongReds.com's description, from software that tracks children's movements, to cars that only drive so far, American parents have many advanced ways to protect their children, but don't kids deserve some privacy the way we did before the internet? The New Yorker, A Different Kind of Theory of Everything, by Natalie Wilchover in the New Yorker. Physicists used to search for the smallest components of the universe. What if that's not the point? The New Yorker, this iconic Hollywood restaurant lets you travel back in time, by Rico Gagliano in WSJ, The Musso. Eat there to journey to another world. WSJ spotted John Kelly in a security line at DCA. He got patted down. He was clearly laughing to himself about the ridiculousness of the situation, said our tipster. Birthday of the day, Marissa Mitrovich, VP of Federal Legislative Affairs at Frontier Communications. What she's read recently, How Millennials Became the Burnout Generation, by Anne Helen Peterson for BuzzFeed. This article looks at the pressures that social media has put on the millennial generation and the anxiety it has created. While I'm turning age redacted years old today and am technically not a millennial, I definitely identify with some things in the article, like how incredibly difficult adulting is in 2019. Playbook plus Q. Jim Manley, Michael Dell 54. Lois Romano, hat tips, Kristen, Jenna, and Jeff, filing from Paris. Jennifer Epstein. Texas Tribune reporter Patrick Svitek is 27. Rebecca Chaliff, head of comms at the Sheryl Sandberg. Ellie Cohen, HTS, Carla Frank and Anna Epstein. Neil Levesque, Executive Director of the New Hampshire Institute of Politics at St. Anselm College, HT Jeff Grapponi. Amanda Howe, Daniel Goetzelis 32. Keaton Feen, BBC's Martine Croxall. Courtney Matson, Joe Burkowski. Representative Kenny Marchant, R. Texas, is 68. Rep. Jeff Vandrew, DNJ, is 66. Representative John Rose, R10, is 54. Nicole Sexton, President and CEO of the Entertainment Industry Foundation, HT Birthday Boy Arjun Modi. Politico's Matthew Choi, Katie Galiotto and Andrew Briz. Anna Seraphin Smith, Flynn Chapman of APCO Worldwide. Chris Martin, Director of Rapid Response at House Republican Conference, is 29. Paul Aucusson. Rebecca Newberger Goldstein, S.E. Cup, host of CNN's S.E. Cup Unfiltered. Leah Clapman of the PBS NewsHour, H.T. Nick Masella. Emily Barsh, Politico Europe's Tom McTighe. Fox News Arenia Mitchell is 3-0. Tom Pino, Senior Media Buyer at GMMB. Gail Smith, President and CEO of the One Campaign and former USAID Administrator, H.T. Ben Chang. Benjamin Sternfield Baum. Gary Carr. The Hill's Molly Hooper, Dan Blair, Derek Hanna, Mike Nixon, Marie McGrory. Tommy Maddox, Nikki MacArthur, Associate at Jones Day. At Johnston. Ruben Ingber 31. Jill Hudson, Lauren Meeks Harris, Bernie Robinson. Arjun Modi, Principal at S3 Group. Dana Bohan, Director at FTI Consulting, is 3-0. Dwayne Marshall, Natalia Arnaud. Jake Decker, Patrick Velicki, VP of Legislation at the Federation of American Hospitals. The show's by Matt Moskowiak, filing from Austin, Meet the Press, Arkansas Gov. Asa Hutchinson, Representative Jim Himes, Decon. Jay Johnson, Neil Katmull and Solomon Weisenberg. Panel, Al Carnas, Lan He-Chen, Heather McGee and Andrea Mitchell. This week, Rep. Adam Schiff, D. Califf. Andrew McCabe, Dan Abrams and author and Alan Dershowitz. North Korea panel, Tom Bossert, Young Pak and Bill Richardson. Panel, Alex Castellanos, Chris Christie, Rachel Bade, Patrick Gaspard and Heidi Heitkamp. Face the Nation, Sen. Roy Blunt, Armo. Sen. Markey, D. Mass. Representative Adam Kinzinger, RL. Washington Governor Jay Inslee. New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. Report from the Vatican from Seth Doan. Panel, Ben Dominic, Susan Page, Jamal Simmons and Edward Wong. Fox News Sunday, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Tom Perez. Panel: Karl Rove, Julie Pace, Josh Holmes and Juan Williams. Power Player of the Week: Real World Playbook founder and CEO Genevieve Ryan. State of the Union: Mike Pompeo, Preet Bharara and Lisa Monaco. Panel: Mike Rogers, David Urban, Jen Psaki and Simone Sanders. Inside Politics: Senator Kamala Harris, D. Califf. Panel: Jonathan Martin, Maeve Reston and Jeff Zellini. Sean Wu and Shara Murray, Fareed Zakaria GPS, Charged Affairs for Venezuela to the U.S. Carlos Vecchio. Panel: Carl Bildt, Susan Glasser and Stephen Hadley. David Wallace Wells. Reliable sources. Panel: Charles Blow, Jacob Weisberg and Mitra Kalita, John McWhorter and LZ Granderson. Jennifer Egan, Barry Diller. SC Cup and David Folkenflik. Guest host: John Avalon. Sunday Morning Futures, Sen. Lindsey Graham, RSC. Trey Gowdy, Rhett Jen. Jack Keane, Media Buzz. Molly Hemingway. Sarah Fisher, Richard Fowler, Charlie Gasparino, Jessica Tarlov, Kat Timpf, All Puntos, Sen. Bernie Sanders, I Vermont. Enrique Acevedo, Nacho, racism victim Sergio Booter, friend of transgender woman in El Salvador after being deported from the U.S. Virginia Flores. Roma, actress Yalitza Aparicio. The Communicators, CWA President Christopher Shelton, questioned by Howard Buskirk. Newsmakers, Air Force Secretary Heather Wilson, questioned by Don Lamothe and Robert Burns. Q. Grant, KCDC, Senator Kamala Harris, D. Califf. Representative Gregory Meeks, DNY. Representative Max Rose, DNY. Pete Williams, Richard Haass, Christine Quinn, Julie K. Brown, Brett Stevens, Noah Rothman, Nick Confessor, Susan Del Percio. Mac on Politics, weekly politics podcast with Matt Moskowiak. Download on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, or listen at maconpolitics.com. Brandon Darby. A message from the American Beverage Association. America's beverage companies, Coke, Dr. Pepper and Pepsi, are working hard to support families as they reduce the sugar in their diets. That means offering more great-tasting options with less sugar or no sugar at all, putting clear calorie labels on every product, and working with public health organizations and other national and local partners to build stronger, healthier communities. With more choices, smaller portions and less sugar, America's families can find the balance that's right for them. https://www.balanceus.org